It is 4:30 in the morning, October 1968, in the west side of San Antonio, Texas. Roberto Mendoza, an auto mechanic, walks his 8-year-old son out to the workshop behind the house. The boy is still in his pajamas. The cement floor is cold under his bare feet. Roberto lights the work lamp. He hands the boy his largest wrench. He shows the boy how to count the day's coins from his coffee can savings. The lesson lasts 7 minutes. The boy will repeat it 3,000 mornings before he is married. The wrench was made in 1942. Today is May 24, 2026. It is 4:30 in the morning. In the same workshop, behind the same house, in the same West Side neighborhood, Roberto Mendoza III has just placed his largest wrench in the small hand of his own 8-year-old son. The lamp is the same lamp. The coffee can is the same coffee can. The wrench is the same wrench. The chain has not been broken. Somewhere east of here, a man wakes up to an alarm. He does not know what his grandfather did for a living. His son will not learn from him what a coffee can savings even is. The chain has been broken for a long time. This episode is 25 money rules Mexican-American fathers drilled into their sons, and the discipline that built 3 generations of wealth from nothing. Mexican-American fathers built wealth from empty pockets across 4 decades of working 2 jobs, sleeping 4 hours, and never owing a man more than a Sunday meal. There are 25 money rules in this episode. Number 23 is what time a Mexican-American man arrives at the job site. Number 11 is when a Mexican-American father puts his son to work for his own money. Number 1 is what a father gives his son that is not money and not the trade and not the land in Jalisco. If what you are about to hear sounds familiar, if your father drilled you in any of this, or if you wish he had, we have collected 10 of the most important of these lessons into a small book called The Forgotten Father Code, 10 timeless lessons American dads taught their sons. The link is in the description. It will outlast the man who reads it.
Number 25 is the handshake debt. It comes from Roberto Mendoza, an auto mechanic in the west side of San Antonio in 1968. Roberto's son needs new school shoes. Roberto doesn't have $3. He walks to Mr. Garza's shoe store on Guadalupe Street. He shakes Mr. Garza's hand. He says, "My son needs shoes today. I pay you Friday." Friday comes. Roberto hands him $3 in coins from a coffee can. Mr. Garza doesn't count it. Pew Research documented that Mexican-American community credit operated on handshake terms across 2 generations of immigrant urban neighborhoods, with default rates below 2%. The American Bar Association reports nearly 1 in 3 U.S. business contracts today ends in litigation.
Number 24 is the cash-only rule. It comes from Don Antonio Ramos, a small farmer in the Rio Grande Valley in 1955. Don Antonio keeps his money in 3 places, some in the bank for show, some in a coffee can buried in the chicken coop, some in his wife's apron pocket. He has never taken a loan, he has never used credit. When his son wants a used truck, Don Antonio teaches him, count the dollars first. If the dollars aren't there, the truck isn't yours. Riesler's research on Mexican-American Depression-era economics documented household debt averaging less than 5% of equivalent Anglo households. The Federal Reserve reports U.S. household debt today exceeds $17 trillion.
Number 23 is the early start. It comes from Hector Salazar, a masonry foreman in South Phoenix in 1985. Hector runs a crew of 9 men. He is on the job site at 4:30 every morning. His apprentices arrive at 5. The general contractor arrives at 7. Hector has already laid the chalk lines, mixed the first batch of mortar, and counted the bricks. He tells his 16-year-old son, "El que madruga, Dios lo ayuda." The Bureau of Labor Statistics documented Hispanic construction workers in the 80s averaged 65 to 70 hours a week, the highest of any demographic. Hector worked 13 hours a day for 30 years. His son owns the company now.
Number 22 is the tanda. It comes from Ernesto Cisneros, a Santa Fe railway brakeman in Denver in 1963. Ernesto belongs to a tanda of 20 men who work the rail yard. Every Friday, each man puts $20 into the pool. Each week, one man receives the full $400. No bank takes a cut, no interest is charged. The man who receives the pool buys a refrigerator, pays a quinceañera deposit, covers a hospital bill. The contract is la confianza. Vicky Rees's research documented Mexican-American tanda default rates as effectively zero across decades of mutual aid practice. The Federal Reserve reports the average American household pays over $1,200 a year in bank fees and credit card interest.
Number 21 is the second job. It comes from Miguel Ramirez, a U.S. steelworker in South Chicago in 1972. Miguel works 60 hours a week at the mill. The mill pays one paycheck. Miguel's wife and 4 children need 2 paychecks. On Saturdays, Miguel paints houses. On Sundays, after Mass, he fixes cars in the alley behind his Pilsen apartment. 85 hours a week for 22 years. His sons watch him do this. The Bureau of Labor Statistics documented Hispanic men working 7.3 hours more per week than the national average across the 70s and 80s. By 2005, Miguel and his sons owned 3 houses in Pilsen outright.
Number 20 is the tool you own. It comes again from Roberto Mendoza, the San Antonio mechanic. Roberto's father gave him his first wrench at age 9. By 20, Roberto owned $300 worth of tools, a fortune for a Mexican-American mechanic in 1968. The shop owned the lifts, but the wrenches, the sockets, the diagnostic tools, those were Roberto's. When the shop owner tried to cut his wages, Roberto walked out with his toolbox. 3 days later, he worked at a better shop for better pay. Pew Hispanic documented Mexican-American tradesmen held tool ownership at rates 50% higher than equivalent Anglo tradesmen across the 60s and 70s. The boss can fire you. He cannot take your wrench. Number 19 is the reputation. It comes from Javier Espinosa, a house painter in East Los Angeles in 1978. Javier has painted 142 houses without ever signing a written contract. Each job came from the last, un primo of the last customer, una comadre at the next parish, the cousin's cousin who saw the work. He never advertises, he never undercuts. When a customer asks him to paint over water damage without fixing the leak, he refuses. Twice in 20 years, he returned and repainted at his own cost. Geraldo Cadava's Hispanic business research documented Mexican-American tradesmen relied on community reputation networks at rates over 80% versus market advertising. 68% of American workers today report no customer relationship at all. Number 18 is the accountant. It comes again from Don Antonio Ramos, the Rio Grande Valley farmer. Don Antonio keeps a brown ledger book on the kitchen table. Every dollar in, every dollar out. Every loan made to a primo, every loan received from a compadre, every dollar sent to his mother in Tamaulipas. He writes in pencil, with corrections, with margin notes. By 1985, the ledger has 30 years of entries. When the IRS questions his tax filings, Don Antonio hands them the ledger. They leave in 4 hours. Acuña's research documented Mexican-American small farmers maintained household ledgers at rates exceeding 90% across the post-war decades. The IRS reports the U.S. tax gap today exceeds $600 billion annually. Number 17 is the contract. It comes from Father Salvador Galindo, a bilingual schoolteacher in a South Texas colonia in 1980. The children call him El Padre because he stayed past retirement to teach a 3rd generation of barrio kids. He teaches them el papel habla, the paper speaks. La confianza of the handshake builds the relationship. The notarized paper protects the relationship when memory fails. Father Galindo has signed every contract of his life. He has been sued 0 times. The Texas State Historical Association documented Mexican-American communities in Deep South Texas pioneered notarized small business contracts at rates significantly higher than equivalent Anglo communities, a learned defensive economic practice. Today, 65% of U.S. adults believe most people cannot be trusted. Number 16 is the boss. It comes from Luis Hernandez, a Ford auto worker at the River Rouge plant in southwest Detroit in 1975. Luis is a union man, UAW Local 600. He respects his foreman. He never speaks back. He learns everything about welds, torque settings, reading a schematic. He also learns what not to become. The foreman drinks. The foreman doesn't see his children. The foreman makes the wage, but spends it Friday night. Luis tells his son, respect the boss, learn from the boss, but never become the boss. Become the man who owns the work. Geraldo Cadava's research documented that by 1975, 1 in 8 Mexican-American men owned a small business, the highest rate of any immigrant group in post-war America. Number 15 is the receipt. It comes from Tomas Vargas, the panaderia owner on 18th Street in Pilsen, Chicago, in 1992. Tomas keeps every receipt, every flour purchase, every electric bill, every cash payment to the helper who comes in on Saturdays. 12 years of receipts in shoeboxes labeled by year. When the IRS audits him in 1998, the auditor opens 3 boxes and leaves. The audit closes with 0 findings. Tomas calls his 19-year-old son. The migra comes for the immigrant first. The IRS comes for the small business next. The man with receipts is the man they cannot touch. The IRS reports the U.S. tax gap today exceeds $600 billion annually, most from cash transactions where receipts go uncollected.
Number 14 is the bishop's debt. It comes again from Father Galindo, the South Texas teacher. Father Galindo gives 5% of his salary to the parish every Sunday. He gives even in months when the rent is short and the car needs tires. He tells his nephew, La Iglesia is not a tax. La Iglesia is the only insurance company that covers a Mexican-American family when the breadwinner is laid off, the wife is sick, the children need school clothes. The parish brings groceries, the parish pays the funeral, the parish finds the lawyer. LULAC archives and parish-based research documented mid-century Mexican-American Catholic mutual aid networks maintained effective coverage rates over 90% of households in need. Today, 50% of U.S. adults report serious loneliness.
Number 13 is La Casa. It comes from Manuel Cruz, a lawn care company founder in South Phoenix in 2000. Manuel arrived from Sonora in 1993 with $187 in a paper envelope. 7 years later, he owns a small house on Buckeye Road. Every evening, Manuel pulls his pickup into the driveway at 6:15. He takes off his work boots on the porch. He brushes the dirt and grass clippings from his pants. He waits 1 full second before he opens the door. His sons have watched him do this 1,000 times. The driveway is the world. The kitchen is the family. The threshold of La Casa is the hinge between the 2 economies, one ruled by los recursos limitados, the other ruled by la disciplina del hogar. Until now, you have heard 12 money rules for the world: how a Mexican-American man earns, how he keeps his word, how he tracks his dollars, how he builds his reputation among other men. The next 12 are for the family: the wife who holds the household money, the children who work for their first wages by age 10, the table where what is served tells you the household's economy, the clothes inherited brother to brother, the car bought in cash or not at all, los abuelos, the land in Mexico, the inheritance that is not money but the discipline of money. The Mexican-American father drills his son in both halves of this code, in this order for a reason. The world rules build the wealth, the family rules keep it. Number 13 is La Casa. What follows is the household.
Number 12 is the wife's account. It comes again from Don Antonio Ramos, the Rio Grande Valley farmer. Don Antonio earns the money. His wife, Catalina, holds the money. On Friday evening, Don Antonio brings home his pay in cash. He counts it once. He hands Catalina the entire amount. She counts it twice. She puts 30% in the coffee can buried in the chicken coop. She puts 5% in the Iglesia envelope. She puts $20 into the tanda. The rest she manages for the week. Don Antonio asks for $2 when he needs gas. Vicky Ruiz's research documented that across Mexican-American households of the mid-century, the wife controlled day-to-day household finance in over 90% of cases. The American divorce rate is 45%. Don Antonio and Catalina celebrated 58 years.
Number 11 is the kid's first job. It comes again from Hector Salazar, the Phoenix construction foreman. Hector's son Antonio is 10 years old when Hector hands him his first paid job. Saturday mornings, 6 a.m., on the construction site. Antonio carries water to the workers, sweeps cut wood scraps, holds the chalk line. At the end of the day, Hector counts $5 in coins into Antonio's hand. Antonio puts $2 in his pocket. He puts $3 in the cigar box his mother keeps on top of the refrigerator. By age 16, the cigar box holds $2,000. Pew Research documented mid-century Mexican-American working family children entered the formal cash economy by age 10 in over 70% of households. Today, the average American teenager earns first wages at age 16.
Number 10 is the table. It comes again from Tomas Vargas, the Pilsen panaderia owner. Tomas's wife Lupe cooks 5 staples in rotation: frijoles, arroz, tortillas hechas a mano, caldo de pollo on Sundays, huevos rancheros for the children's breakfast. Meat is for la cena del domingo and quinceañeras. In a household of 7, Lupe spends $38 a week on food. The bakery profits are kept untouched. By 2004, when Tomas opens his second location on Cermak Road, the family has saved over $100,000 in 14 years, built on frijoles and rice. The American Family Survey reports only 41% of U.S. families today eat dinner together more than 3 times a week. The Vargas family eats together 6 nights a week.
Number 9 is the close. It comes again from Miguel Ramirez, the South Chicago steelworker. Miguel has 4 sons. The oldest is 14, the youngest is 6. Miguel buys 8 new shirts a year, 2 for each son. When the oldest outgrows his shirt, it goes to the second oldest. By the time it reaches the youngest, the shirt has lived 4 lives. Miguel's wife patches the work pants at the knee with cloth from old shirts. The boys don't complain. The boys learn. By the time the oldest reaches high school, he has earned 3 sets of new clothes for his confirmation, his 8th grade graduation, and his first job interview at the mill.
Number 8 is the car. It comes again from Luis Hernandez, the Detroit Ford auto worker. Luis works at the Rouge plant, building Ford LTDs that he will never buy on credit. He has never financed a vehicle. His first car was a '63 Chevy Bel Air, bought for $200 cash in 1967. His second was a '71 Ford F100, bought for $900 cash in 1973. When his eldest son turns 18 and wants to finance a new Camaro, Luis tells him no. The Camaro is La Data. The 15-year-old Buick is the Freedom. The son listens. The son drives the Buick. By age 35, the son owns 3 rental properties. The Federal Reserve reports the average American auto loan today is $38,000.
Number 7 is the grandparents. It comes again from Ernesto Cisneros, the Denver Santa Fe Railway brakeman. Ernesto's parents, Los Abuelos, live in the converted basement of the house on Federal Boulevard. Ernesto's father, who came from Chihuahua in 1921, still works part-time at a print shop. Ernesto's mother does the laundry and watches the 4 grandchildren. 4 incomes enter the household. 4 generations sit at the Sunday table. When Ernesto's son needs help with arithmetic, he asks the abuelo. When the abuelo needs help with English forms, he asks the grandson. Pew Research documented mid-century Mexican-American 3-generation households maintained financial stability at rates 50% higher than equivalent single-family Anglo households. Today, only 10% of American children live within walking distance of a grandparent.
Number 6 is the family debt. It comes again from Javier Espinosa, the East Los Angeles house painter. In 1978, Javier's brother Raul loses his job in a meatpacking plant strike. For 4 months, Javier covers Raul's rent. No interest, no paper, no conversation about repayment. 6 years later, Javier's daughter needs braces. Raul writes a check for $1,400. No interest, no paper, no conversation. Over 40 years, the Espinosa extended family circulates over $40,000 in interest-free loans, all on the same principle. La Familia is fluid. The dollars come back in life. Vicky Ruiz documented this practice as a structural feature of Mexican-American extended family economics. Today, the average American household has $0 in informal family lending.
Number 5 is the dream of la casa. It comes again from Father Galindo, the South Texas teacher. Father Galindo and his wife Maria spent 5 years saving $1,200 for the down payment on a small adobe-style house in the Colonia. They saved by skipping new clothes for 4 Christmases. They sold the second car. They canceled the family vacation. They walked the children to school instead of driving. The dollars went into a coffee can. The coffee can never opened for any other purpose. In 1980, they bought the house outright after 7 years of mortgage payments. The U.S. Census Bureau documents Mexican-American homeownership rates climbed faster across the 70s and 80s than any other minority group, built on the coffee can discipline of El Sueño de la Casa.
Number 4 is the funeral fund. It comes again from Manuel Cruz, the South Phoenix lawn care entrepreneur. Manuel pays $5 a month into a community funeral collective, starting when his eldest son turns 12. $5 a month for his second son, $5 for his third son, $5 for himself, $5 for his wife. By the time each son turns 20, the collective holds enough to cover full funeral expenses for that life. When Manuel's father dies in 2017 in Sonora, the funeral is paid in full from a parallel collective Manuel had contributed to since 1993. The average American funeral today costs $11,500, paid by the surviving family on credit.
Number 3 is the education. It comes again from Roberto Mendoza, the San Antonio mechanic. Roberto did not finish high school. His son, Roberto Jr., earned a community college degree in 1983. His grandson, Roberto III, graduated from the University of Texas at Austin in 2011. 3 generations, 1 trajectory. Roberto drilled his son with the same line every morning, El que aprende no se muere de hambre. He did not pay for the son's school. He drilled the son in the discipline of showing up to class, reading every assigned page, treating the textbook the way a mechanic treats a torque wrench. Pew Research documented Mexican-American college enrollment doubling between 1970 and 1990. The first generation built the wealth. The second built the credential. Number 2 is La Tierra. It comes again from Miguel Ramirez, the South Chicago steelworker. Miguel left a small piece of land in Jalisco when he came to Chicago in 1968. He never sold it. Every month for 32 years, Miguel sent $50 to his cousin Esteban in the pueblo to keep the property taxes paid, the boundary stones maintained, the small chapel on the corner of the parcel repaired. By 2000, the land has appreciated and the chapel is a community landmark. Miguel never lived on the land again. His sons visited every year. His grandsons learned to ride horses on it. Vicky Ruiz documented this practice, La Tierra in Mexico, held across generations from the U.S. as the most enduring feature of bicultural Mexican-American family economics.
Number 1 is the inheritance. It comes from Manuel Cruz, the South Phoenix lawn care entrepreneur. Manuel arrived from Sonora in 1993 with $187 in a paper envelope. Today, in 2026, Manuel's eldest son owns a regional lawn care franchise with 18 employees. His middle son is a CPA in Tucson. His youngest son is a mechanical engineer who will graduate next year. 3 sons, 3 trades, 1 discipline. Manuel did not pass them money. He passed them the cash-only rule, the tanda, the second job, the receipts, the wife who holds, the abuelos who anchor, the land in Jalisco, the funeral prepaid. The Pew Research Center documented Mexican-American intergenerational wealth transfer at rates that consistently exceed the formal financial transfer alone, because the disciplines transfer separately from the dollars. Every other episode in this series asked what we lost. This one asks what happens when a father teaches a son not the wealth, but the way to build it. Again, from nothing, as his father did before him.
25 money rules. 3 generations of wealth built from empty pockets. A people who learned that the dollar saved is worth twice the dollar earned. That the tools you own are your fortune. That the wife who holds is half the bank. They are not better than the rest of America. They simply were not allowed to forget. The bank wouldn't lend to them, so they built the tanda. The boss wouldn't promote them, so they bought their own tools. The schools wouldn't teach them, so the fathers drilled the lessons at the kitchen table at 4:30 in the morning before the workshop opened. We have collected 10 of these lessons, the ones every American father of every neighborhood and every name used to give his son, into a small book called The Forgotten Father Code, 10 timeless lessons American dads taught their sons, 10 chapters, vintage-inspired design, instant download. The link is in the description below this video and pinned in the comments. We made it for the man who watched this whole video and recognized something he had not heard in a long time. We made it for the father who wants to give his son something to hold. Pick one of these, pick one tonight, and drill it. The chain begins again with you on a Tuesday in May when nobody is watching.